Dr. Steve, can you explain how the pendulum technique works for the pre-hypnotic diagnosis?
Oh, sure. You know, when you're working with a client, sometimes they're not aware of what's going on in their minds. And you ask them, well, how do you feel about this? Where do you want to live? What are your thoughts about this or that? And it's really clear that they don't have a strong notion. They're not in touch with themselves. But you suspect that they have the answer deep inside. And so that's a resource that you want to access, but it may be challenging. Now, one way to do it is to put them into a hypnotic state and then start asking them questions, interview style. Well, what do you feel about this? Where do you want to live? What do you want to do? That kind of thing. Another way to do it is by using the pendulum. And a lot of people look at that and say, wow, that's really, that sounds like a magic trick or something. That doesn't sound like mainstream therapy to me at all. But it's actually based on science. Your brain sends signals through your arm to your hand to activate your hand to move in a certain way. So if you were to hold something, we have here in the studio, one of the technicians left just a plug here that goes into a wall to plug something in. So I'm just going to use this for demonstration purposes. Now, what you want to do in a clinical setting in the office is get an actual pendulum, and they sell these at metaphysical new age stores, and online you can find a pendulum. So you wouldn't use something like this. I'm just showing you how simple it is. And what you do is on a piece of paper you establish yes or no. And so to do that, all you do is, one axis can be yes, and one axis can be no. Just draw a T, and one means yes, and the other means no, and then you just lay it down. And once you put it down, you put the pendulum over it, and you say, okay, show me yes. And believe it or not, it will start moving in that way. Now, I'm making it move consciously, but if we had enough time, you would see that it would move by itself. In fact, I'll demonstrate that right now, just so you can see what I'm talking about. So we're going to say this is yes and this is no. And so I've used this many times, so I'm very good at this actually. So are we sitting down right now? Okay, you see how it's moving to and fro along that axis? I'm not consciously making it do that. I'm just looking at it, and my hand is moving it. It's not magic. My hand is moving it, but my brain is making it move. So that doesn't sound very fascinating. Are we sitting down? We find out either yes or no, we're sitting down. But when I start asking myself more interesting questions, such as, do I like living in a certain place? Or do I like having a certain job or a certain career? Or do I like a certain car choice? Or whatever it is that I'm attempting to get out of myself, or in a clinical setting, out of the client, that's compelling and that's valuable. Because if they don't know and you suspect they have the answer in their subconscious mind, this is a way to unlock it. So all you have to do is have something weighted and have a way for it to swing, and just establish yes and no. Now sometimes they'll swing like this, so clockwise can be yes, counterclockwise can be no, for example. But if you do that, you're going to be able to get some information out of them beforehand. Now, I call it pre-hypnotic diagnosis. Now, as a hypnotist or hypnotherapist, we're not diagnosing anything. I'm just using that word because what I mean by that word is that we're getting information out of them. We're just accessing information from them. So we can then use that in the hypnosis session. And usually the client finds it fascinating. First of all, the fact that the pendulum worked, hopefully you'll try this at home, the fact that the pendulum works is fascinating to them. And then they have a new tool they can use to get their own information on their own. Secondly, it's fascinating because they're surprised that they have the answer in their subconscious mind, and you've unlocked that. Now the hypnosis session can be more powerful because you already have that information. Now we can move further. Now that we have that information, we know what your heart's desire is because it's been revealed through the pendulum. We can weave that into the hypnosis session and make a very powerful hypnosis session.
That is very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure. For more resources and information on hypnosis and a free hypnosis recording, just check out my website, which is stevegjones.com. I'm Dr. Steve G. Jones, clinical hypnotherapist, hoping you have an outstanding day.